Hey, welcome to the Road and Morale podcast. So, do you ever feel like screaming out in the office, on Zoom, or outside the school gates? For the love of God, come on, really? Then, if this is you and you're looking for an honest, fun, and frank podcast on life and business, then sit back and listen to me, Rona Morale. I'll be bringing great people on the show to talk, share, and debate their life experiences and business challenges, keeping the show unpolished, but in a fun and unique British style, with sarcasm, tenacity, or maybe a few swear words or tears. This podcast keeps it real, honest, raw, and removes the bullshit in the only way I know how, through authenticity and getting shit done. Think of it less like the Housewives of New York or Towie with the lipo and drama, and more like the house lives of the real world. I hope you'll take something away to be better informed, laugh, smile, or maybe even finally getting the confidence to shout, come on really. So enjoy. Hey Emma, welcome to the Road and Morale podcast. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. I am so excited to have Emma on the podcast today, and I'll tell you why. Emma and I met briefly through a mutual networking, and we connected on LinkedIn. I started to see and learn more about what Emma was doing. So Emma in 2005 founded a company called Killing Kittens, and this was very much based around, there was little ability to control or for females to explore their sexual liberation. So Emma over the years has certainly been given the leader as title of leader in female sexual liberation, and you have hosted parties all over the world, on and offline, and certainly in COVID you've done virtual parties, which is amazing. You are, I think you may have launched, but you are launching the KK Social Network dating app. And I think we probably both know, or you more than me, that in the world of sex tech, it's very dominated by men. So to have someone leading the forefront from a female angle is incredible. I know that you've done some crowdfunding, and also you got money from the HM government future funds, which when I first read, I was like, so hold on a minute, the government are funding this. So let's explore that in a minute for sure. But I also know that you launched Sistr, which helps women in business, Safedate app, and also Sisterhood, which I have to say, you've done some incredible challenges, raised over £1 million, and bagged yourself a world record. So to the listeners out there, welcome to Emma, a phenomenal lady, and I'm really looking forward to the next half an hour or so. So Emma, please tell me more about all of this, like why you're doing it and what drives you every day.
Do you know what? I think it's always been, it wasn't something that just sort of, happened. And a lot with Killing Kittens, especially on the sex front, there's this kind of assumption that anyone mad enough to do that and say they do it and take the abuse was obviously someone that was, just wanted to get the knickers off and have as much sex as possible. And actually it couldn't have been further from the truth. Actually, in mid-20s, early 20s, I couldn't be more insecure, and the thought of being naked in front of anyone in bright light just scared the hell out of me. So it wasn't that at all. It was, I've just growing up, I've always been, since I was little and could talk, mum says, I question, and I've always been that kind of, if this challenging the status quo and not taking that kind of, well, that's how it is as the answer, because everything's kind of, well, that's just how it is. Well, that's just, and that's how it is. That's just what happens. It kind of, and that's always got me really angry and going, well, no, that's not good enough. And I grew up very outsider in that we moved every 2 years. We moved all over the world. My dad was Army and Foreign Office. We lived in the Middle East a lot, all the way through my teenage years and university. We were out in the Middle East in different places. And at the same time had my dad was very controlling, and it was very coercive control over mum. They're not together anymore, which is great. And she's remarried and very happy. But he watching that, and then at the same time being in an all-girls boarding school for 10 years in England, basically being told that I could be where I wanted to be and that the world was my oyster and I could literally go out there and rule it. But yet going home and seeing the complete opposite, both in home and in the Middle East, and the way women were treated around me, it just got, I always say it's this fire in my belly that was just stoked from an early age, just constantly seeing different cultures and different nationalities. And I've, as I said, that this outsider mindset of you're always looking in. You never really, you haven't grown up in the same place with the same friends doing the same things in this kind of echo chamber that a lot of people sort of are in their lives, because they've just been in this bubble and they don't know. It was always moving to the next place and making new friends of all different nationalities and cultures, and being able to look in. And I think with Killing Kittens, it was the same. I didn't really know it at the time. It's more, I've looked into it now. It was the same thing. It was something I was able to look into and look at the way women around me were being treated, and look at the way women were judged on one-night stands, and there was nowhere really. And even talking to girlfriends about, I was kind of used to a bit from the all-girls boarding school, being open about sex toys and that kind of stuff. But how actually you realise that a lot of women, a lot of girls couldn't even talk to their closest friends about anything to do with sex. And it was that inbuilt kind of shame and judgment, which we all have, especially you know, women 30s plus have that messaging that's just sort of what society has put on us, and it, you know, and that kind of, you've got to sort of sit back and put up and compromise, and don't be, you know, don't be bossy, don't be aggressive, don't be, you know, be a lady, be a girl, kind of. I
don't even know what that means.
Constant kind of, I know, exactly. So I've always had it, and even, it's funny because even now, age 42, there's still part of me, well, people still go, wow, you're opinionated, or well, you're just aggressive. And there's still that part of me, that little girl in me that goes, oh God, I've got to rein it in. But I tell you what, the woman in me that's got older and older is very much quicker now to turn around and go, fuck you. So what? If I was a man, no one would say you're aggressive, you're opinionated. It just, you know, it kind of, so there's always been that sort of fuck you inside me that has gone, no, why can't we all be the same and have the same opportunities? And to me, it's all kind of mushed up, whether that's, you know, owning it in the bedroom to owning it in the boardroom. It's kind of actually goes hand in hand. But actually 15 years ago, it's sort of, it's very segregated, and, you know, your sex life was sort of very private and very quiet, and women had to be not heard and lie back and think of England, and on that front. And that's what, when I was looking at that, and also hearing friends of mine sort of be complete legends and high five for sleeping with loads of women and loads of girls, and a girl had a one night stand, they were a slut, and hearing guys go, oh, I've met an amazing girl, but she's not girlfriend material, and it'd be like, well, why not? Oh, because she slept with loads of guys. And it just makes no sense. Exactly. And to me, it made no sense that.
Funnily enough, yesterday I was at a meeting and someone was talking about a woman who'd done well in the boardroom, but she was a little bit kind of alpha female. And this one, actually it came from a woman. This one woman said, oh, she probably slept her way to the top. And I just thought, really? That's coming from a young woman. And it just really infuriated me.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's not, that's the thing. I love men. So now a lot of people go, oh, you know, I assume I must be some man, you know, this ultimate man-hating feminist. And it's like, no, as I said, I've grown up with everyone and anything. To me, it's just being human. And I think that's part of the anger, is that I see everyone the same. Therefore, why are people treated differently? And why are women not allowed to do? So that's the only segregation on genders, is that me trying to get the women up to be able to behave the same way as men, whether that's in the boardroom or the bedroom. And then, so when they started on the sexuality front, it was when sort of Sex and the City came out. So they were talking more about vibrators and these groups of girls. And at the same time over here, and Summer's hit the high streets. So Layla went into Selfridges selling sex toys. So there was a kind of bit of a buzz on that front. And I started doing some PR, helping with PR for the Big Erotica show. And it got me into the kind of the adult industry of seeing all the weird and wonderful and amazing people involved in the sex industry, but I just saw a whole load of brands and companies run by men claiming to be for women, from the toys to the lingerie to porn, everything. Even if it looked like it was for women, lingerie, it was owned by men and men's of what they thought women would want. So again, it just sort of made me more angry. And that's it. And then I wanted to create a world and a space where women could explore their sexuality without being judged, and online and offline. So this was back in 2005, so there wasn't really a huge amount of digital online social media stuff going on. It was very offline, but we always had a small online community and forums going on, chat forums from day one. So to start with, it was very offline, and these monthly events, which, thanks to the Daily Mail, it's like sex parties, orgies. And so, but to me, and yes, there was loads of sex, and there is loads of sex that goes on at the parties. To me, it's always been a byproduct. It's always been, I focus on all the rest of the detail of the event, you know, the venues and the ambience and who comes and the rules. And if people feel comfortable and want to take their clothes off and have sex, and they can. So it's sort of, it hasn't been the be all. That's what, and it's in the same way the online side of it all has grown. And actually in the last 5 years, we're considered a tech business, because over, you know, about 60% of our revenue comes from the online side, which is built into this kind of social network dating beast, without really realizing. So 5 years ago, looked at it, and I've got there's only 4 of us, and we're all really offline people. I'm not an online person, digital person, and we were all offline. And but yeah, most of the business revenue is coming from online. So got a CRO on board. He's more of a business partner, to be honest. Now he's kind of the yin to my yang. And we spent the last 3 years building this beast of a site, platform and apps, and which the platform went live July, and the app I think is going live today in iOS and Android. So we've just been waiting for them to accept a few tweaks.
Please share with us
any day now.
Please share with us the information for the app, and when the podcast goes out, I'll share it too.
Yeah, it's just to be honest, it's all Killing Kittens, which is a crazy name. And you know, we weren't given a bank account for the first every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten. So if you're killing a kitten, you're just having a wank. It basically, I hadn't slept for 3 days at a wedding in Ibiza when I decided this was what I was going to be doing. So it kind of, but it makes it easy. Let's be honest, if you put that into a Google search, you're not competing with a whole lot of stuff. So to find the apps and the website, you just put Killing Kittens in. And
okay, awesome. I'll have to remember that. I mean, I've had the chats with my daughter, and I must admit, I don't ever remember sort of chatting to her about, every time you masturbate, you're gonna kill a kitten. That might have freaked her out as an 11-year-old. But you know, that whole thing that you're talking about, kind of growing up where, you know, it just wasn't talked about. And so, you know, I'm 43, and it was always about, you didn't really know what things meant. You didn't know what you should do or you shouldn't do. You couldn't really talk about it. And even now, there's probably a handful of people that I can really be open and honest with about sex, because it does involve another person, and what right do you have to talk about them, you know, and they'll be mortified. It's really hard, pardon the pun.
Yeah. It is, but then it does involve another person, but you don't have to get personal, if that, you know what I mean, that of all the ins and outs of when you're just talking about, you know, when you're talking about sex in the same way you can talk about workouts and you know, or new diet plans. It's sort of read about this new, or to me it kind of, our sexuality drives us, and it drives us more than anything else in the world, more than religion, more than politics, it's the core of all human beings. And most, and what, you know, I find sad is that actually most people, especially women, are so not tapped into their sexuality, of what really, because we've never been allowed to be. You know, women's sexuality has only been around for 100 years, really. The clitoris and like the female orgasm, it's not even 100 years old, I don't think. So no, it was the 70s. So it's sort of, we just haven't been allowed, and it's huge. And you know, the sad thing is, pre 18th century and pre, you know, the religion coming in, women, we were naturally the more sexual gender of the genders. We were the ones that were out there having more sex, being more sexual, and with more of a drive. And it's just how it was. And actually, in non-Western societies still now, the very matriarchal societies, women still are much more, the more promiscuous sexual beings. We just, so it's kind of, it's not a natural state for us to be completely, you know, shut off.
What do you
from
think
what we
changed
like
that then?
and everything. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think kind of shifted
Religion.
that?
Well, with 18th, 19th century, it basically, religion came in, and the Church of England in that it in the Western world, and everything was put on the family unit marriage. So everything was all on this marriage and family unit, and therefore the woman needed to be controlled to stay at home and look after the babies. So it was all kind of, right, everything's on the husband, everything's about his needs, his wants. So you have to serve your husband, hence the marriage vows of, you know, to obey. And that's what it became. So it was very much, you women know your place, and you are your husband's property and expected to, and that, you know, the whole patriarchal society came into play. And it's just, that messaging is just from generation to generation to generation. And even, you know, even us, and my, you know, my mum is so open and out there, and we chat about everything and anything, but you still, and I have to stop myself, I've got 2 daughters and a son, but you do have to stop yourself from treating them slightly differently, and kind of letting the boys get away with a bit more because they're just boys, and kind of not pushing the girls down a bit. But I just have to stop myself sometimes, because it's so ingrained in us to kind of keep, you know, the girls to kind of be the ones that sort of just settle and be a bit more and compromise and put up, you know what I mean? It's that the victim blaming involved, if it's all on the girl and the woman to take responsibility, because men cannot possibly control themselves when it comes to a woman walking down the street. It's the onus is on the girl not to wear the short skirt, not to be on her mobile phone, not to have headphones in. Sure, to me it's like, actually that messaging all wrong. Put the onus on the responsibility of the boys, that even if I walk down the street naked at 3 a.m, that doesn't give anyone the right to rape me. You know, and that's how the messaging should be, but not.
Yeah, it was in the news recently, wasn't it, how they're going to change the way certain systems view rape cases in going to court, because there was one woman who had basically been told, because she'd sent naked photos of herself to this particular person, that she would be torn alive or ripped to shreds in court, and so it was never taken any further, and that, you know, that has stuck with her for the rest of her life. And that has to be fundamentally wrong. Like you say, I should be able to walk into my village naked. I mean, I'm probably more likely to get laughed at, but do that with no fear of anything happening to me.
Yeah, it's that kind of, they were asking for it. They were drunk, they were asking for it. They, you know, it's sort of, you know, they were snogging a guy, therefore they were asking to be raped later on. It kind of, it's just constant. And even, you know, and actually, like, there's been this whole rough sex. I think it's now been brought in that you can't, that someone's like, what they like in sex shouldn't come into a court hearing. Like that, there was that New Zealand, that girl who was killed in New Zealand, and she was into rough sex, and it was she was torn apart, her whole sexual history, as if it was her fault because she liked a bit of BDSM. It's like, and for anyone that knows the BDSM world, and is, you know that actually it is so controlled And so, you know, everything is completely on point, and they have contracts and they have agreements, and actually the submissive that is completely in control, because the dom will find out exactly what the submissive likes and doesn't like, and everything to an absolute T, to the exact kind of hardness that you want your nipples tweaked beforehand. And then there's a safe word, so everything's about the submissive is the one actually ironically in control. But people who don't know, you know, that world goes, well, you know, the submissive just lies there and just takes whatever, and he beats the crap out of them and strangles her, and she's asking for it, and you know, so if she accidentally gets strangled to death. But that's not BDSM. That's not the world that is BDSM. That's just an arsehole who's going to kill a girl whether she wants to be strangled or not.
Yeah, so, but do you think, like, in that instance, she's a young girl, maybe had she been aware of something like Killing Kittens, where she could understand there are rules and there is a contract and all of this, that could have helped in that situation? Like, I mean, you've got over 160,000 people in your community. What do they come to you for? And I'm sure there's got a million questions for you. I'm sure there's a million things, but how could that have helped her in that instance? Was it that maybe she didn't know that she could do this and have these boundaries?
To be honest, I don't think anything would have stopped that guy from doing what he did to her. I don't think it was, yeah, I think it came out that it wasn't rough sex that went wrong. He just, you know, they could have been having, I remember reading it, and that's how it came out in the end, that they could have been having like missionary position vanilla sex, and he still would have killed her. It's, you know what I mean, it's a choice in his head to do it, and you can be tied up and strung, you know, all that kind of, you know, to the hill, but they have to choose to kill someone. That's exactly. You know what I mean, you don't, it's very, very, very rare when these things go wrong and someone gets murdered. Otherwise you'd be reading about it the whole time, and you there's barely any cases
exactly
on it. Someone is going to, you know, if they're going to kill, they're choosing to kill, they're choosing to rape. That's the thing. It's like, as you said, if you walked into the village naked at 3 a.m, most people walking past you would not touch you. They'd probably ask you if you're all right, if you want a blanket, and if you need to go home. But the person that walks past and chooses to rape you, that's on them. And no matter what you're wearing, is going to make a blind bit of difference. He used to rape you if you were fully clothed, because that's their intention. So you're not asking for it. They're going to do that anyway.
And I found that a really interesting chat with my daughter. Yeah, and I think that's what I struggled with my daughter when I was trying to explain to her, you are free to be and do whatever you want, whatever you choose to wear, not wear, lipstick, red or beige, whatever. No is no, and you are in control. But in the same breath, trying to think, how do I give her that freedom to, not now, obviously she's only 11, but when she's older, for her, if she wants to dance sexily in a club, and you know, that's absolutely fine, do it. But it is, even in me, I find myself thinking these excuses, well, you were dancing provocatively, you were, you know, grinding on the dance floor, and you were rubbing your backside up me or whatever. It's really hard as a mom to find that balance.
Yeah, because I had this conversation with a guy friend of mine. He's like an ex-footballer as well, and he's got a daughter, and he was like, she posted this picture, I think she's about 11, posted this picture, tight dress on Instagram, and I'm like, what are you wearing? And I was like, where's it coming, you know, what? And he was like, I just know what boys are like. And I went, this is part of the problem. We're excusing boys' behavior. We know what boys are like, therefore don't encourage them, because they have no control over their behavior. And it's where I have a problem with sex ed in schools. I think there needs to be a massive push within sex education on consent boundaries, and actually teaching the boys that it's their choice, it's their responsibility, and boys can't just be boys. Because at the moment there's no responsibility on boys. It's all on girls. The messaging is all on, and a lot of schools still do it. I've, you know, heard, you know, the whole upskirting of, you know, putting mobile phones up skirts and taking pictures of girls' knickers. at school, and I've read that some schools are now, they've changed the uniform and all the girls have to wear trousers or skirts or shorts. And to me, it's like, no, that's not the issue here. The issue is those boys should not be able to stick a phone. The girls should keep wearing skirts, and the boys need to have their asses whipped and, you know, and taught that that's not okay, and respect and boundaries and consent. So by making the girls wear shorts and trousers, you're basically saying it's your responsibility. You have to change your behavior for it not to happen. And to me, that is where they're going to come out, these teenage, you know, or younger girls are coming out as 20-year-olds, and it's still happening because the cycle just goes on and on and on. They're coming out with the same messaging that we had. So they're coming into the world in their 20s, lacking that confidence, thinking it's on them, the responsibility is on them. If anything bad happens to them, keep coming. So it's sort of, we've spoken about it, you know, since I've heard the same thing being spoken about, and nothing changes. So the next generation comes through, and the next generation comes through with the same messaging, and the same, you know, teenage boys watching porn, thinking that that's how sex is, when actually it's like the James Bond of sex. It's not real, you know. You don't, boy, guys don't off coming and being able to throw a woman into 20,000 different positions with no ejaculation. It doesn't happen like that. The noises that come out of those women's mouths don't normally happen. So it kind of, it just, again, it's the cycle coming through of this expectation, and boys thinking again that all girls, you know, come through penetrative sex, when actually it's something like over 80% of women don't actually have orgasms that way. But they're not taught that at school, so how would they know? They just see porn and go, oh look, there's a woman screaming because the penis is in there.
Well, you're not
sort of,
that's the thing, you're not taught at school. Your parents probably didn't talk to you about it. I mean, I've had the chat, but I haven't really, because I don't think she's ready yet in terms of her age, but I haven't talked about, I mean, at the end of it, she was very much like, I'm actually quite disgusted. And I said, babe, you've got to remember, every human being on this planet, pretty much, and every animal on this planet has sex, has babies, has, you know, whatever it is. People do it for enjoyment. I don't want you to be freaked out by this, but I'm just telling you some of the rules. But even the literature that we've all about, you know, not getting pregnant, obviously sexual diseases and all of this, but it never talks about how to experiment, how to enjoy it, how to know your body. And this is a wonderful thing, whatever level that sex might be, vanilla or, you know, full on. So I guess this would be quite interesting for a lot of the listeners. Like, if you've got young children, they've just come through COVID, so there's a whole generation of kids who've not had the sex education, albeit not the best. What should we be doing with our boys and girls in this area?
I think, and I've been doing a shake up in the sex ed side of things. I think, and we as parents, we do need to step up a bit, because it's not being done at schools, the reality of sex. And to me, it's normalizing the conversations around sex. So it's making it normal. Like I said, our sexuality drives us. So it's a natural animal human thing, and having sex is not wrong, and having pleasure, you know, is not wrong. And women and girls especially enjoying pleasure, masturbating, and it's not, there's nothing wrong with it. It's exploring, actually that way is exploring your own body and exploring what you like. And therefore when you then go into relationships, you'll know what you like, so you'll be able to tell your boyfriend or partner, well, this is what I like. And you get that by knowing you. So to me, it's teaching them basically to be, if you're going to do it, be safe. So that's the big thing of the safe kind of thing, the consent side of, you do it, but only if you want to do it, and not feel pressurized to do it, and feel comfortable doing it, and don't think it's some dirty thing where you're going to be judged. And that actually, when it comes to, and knowing your own body. So I would say, you know, to teenage girls, just sort of get out there and be selfish and find yourself and what tick makes you tick. And that way, when you do get out there into the big boy world of, you know, adult relationships, you'll be able to know that, and you'll be able to say, no, actually, you know, you're coming on too strong, or consent and boundaries, and that's the thing. So I think confidence and self-respect are the massive things that we can teach teenage girls that are massively lacking. Because all the studies that have come out of like women in the workplace comes down to confidence issues, women in the bedrooms not being happy, again, it's confidence. And it's that messaging we have since we're tiny. I mean, already I was reading somewhere that by the age of 7, girls already don't think they can do half the things boys can. And you're like, where's that messaging come from? 7. That's tiny, but it's there. So I think as parents and anyone that deals with children has to really think about how they say things and the messaging there. I had to go at my son's cricket coach. He was 5, but I was in the club. It's a big cricket club, and I was in the cafe bit, and I was standing near one of the coaches, and this mum came up to 2 little girls who must have been about 6 and 8, and said, it's our first time, just wait, where do they go? And he said, how old are they? And she said 6 and 8. And he immediately said, what you'll tend to find is the girls will come down into playing younger year groups. And I went, stop. And he said, what? I went, sorry, but you've never seen them play cricket. And you're instantly now telling them, with the girls standing there in front of you, that they're not as good as the boys, and that they're going to be playing with younger. I mean, that's part of the problem. And also you should know that actually cricket and hockey and things like that, it's not until they get to about 12, 13 that the natural boys are stronger and more physical. So they are going to be better. And then you segregate it. But younger, and I said, you can't. And the head coach came up and said, what's going on? Explained it. And he actually said, she's right. Go in the correct year groups. And I said, that's not cool. I said, that's part of the problem, because you now got 2 little girls who have heard someone say they're not as good as the boys
before they've even had chance to show what they're capable of. It
might not be a big thing, but you have that once, you might have that a second time, and they might not be, it's not a big deal, but it's the messaging that just keeps going through and through and through, that they're not as good as the boys. So we need to start watching how we say things, and the teachers and everyone need to just be aware and change the way they message, because they won't. It's that unconscious bias that you just don't know you're doing it.
Actually, it was interesting. My eldest came home. Yeah, she came home from school the other day. She goes, Mummy, one of the teachers has been sexist. I just went, wow, that's a big statement. What do you mean? And she said, well, we've got 2 football pitches at school, and we were playing football, some of the girls and some of the boys were, and the teacher came and took the football away from the girls, but let the boys carry on playing football. I went, really? Did that really happen? She was like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, I've got parents' evening coming up in a couple of days. And it's little things like that. And another time she said, oh yeah, we've been in PE. We had to basically just run around the field 12 times, where the boys got to play cricket. And so we asked, could we play cricket? And they said, no, we don't let the girls play cricket. So again, it's just, why can't they play cricket?
And that's really bad. You know what I mean? That's really bad. Yeah, 30 years ago, but not nowadays. That's not cool.
And you know, you can cover it up a mirage of it's COVID, we've got to keep them separate. No, it's none of that. She was actually right. They were genuinely being sexist. Why couldn't those girls kick a ball about in their spare time? They've got space on the field. So she's now decided, as I think class head or whatever, that she's going to recommend that there's a female cricket team or mixed group cricket team, and
it should be mixed.
And there's a second pitch.
Mix them up. Mix them up. It's like, because my 6-year-old, they do it really well. Their PE is totally mixed up, and he plays football. And I said, what do you do in PE today? Because it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and it's basketball or it's football. And I'm like, who is in your team? And it's always mixed, always totally mixed. And his cricket is mixed, his hockey's mixed, the external clubs, and that's how it should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that. I've always had an issue with toys, you know, pink toys and blue toys. And I'm really like, I'm always saying to the girls, you can go and play with that. Oh, it's quite boyish, or well, you won't want that because it's a girl's toy. It doesn't matter what the colour is. If you enjoy the thing that it is, just go with it, you know. I guess for me, bringing it back to what you do all day and every day, tell me a bit more about your kind of experiences and some of those journeys you've been through with the Sisterhood.
So do you know what, Sisterhood, I launched actually the same year. It was the same year as KK, and or the year after. And it was a similar, when you look back at it and it all kind of makes sense. It was a similar kind of this kind of angry, well, boys are doing it sports wise, so why can't we do it sports wise? And it was this group of guys who were talking about how they had the Brotherhood and they were going to go across the English Channel in a dragon boat. And I said, oh, we're going to, you know, I'm going to launch the Sisterhood and we're going to race you across. So it kind of, that's kind of how it started. And it kind of, it's grown from there. At first it was really intense because it was just that, but the bit, and I hated it, but the bit, but again, what was with that was I wasn't liked by a lot of this Brotherhood lot, because like they had said, and a couple of them have apologized and said, and they're good friends with me now. So I didn't want to, they said, let's all train together. And I went, no. And they thought I was being aloof and said, standoffish. And I was like, no, I'm getting together this group of girls. A lot of them haven't done any sports since school. Yeah. They're in their 30s and 20s and they're all nervous. It's 6:30 in the morning. They need just to train together as girls, not with a bunch of alpha males making them feel like shit and self-conscious, and again, a confidence thing. And girls work differently. So we need to train separately, but we can socialize together and let's have some drink stuff together. And that got their backs up, and I was being standoffish and aloof and thought we were better than them. And I was like, no, it's just how it works. I did sports science as a degree. I loved the sports psychology. I kind of knew that you couldn't, in your face, it would never work. I'd never get the best out of the girls training if we were thrown in and mixed up with boys in a boat at 6:30 in the morning. And you know, that I was again aggressive and assertive and opinion, all these things, and ignored it all from them. And so we did it. But the bit I loved was the girls hadn't done anything like it, and a lot of them weren't even sporty. They were just up for a challenge. And the confidence they got doing it was the thing that they took out at the end. It wasn't about getting across the channel in a dragon boat. It was how it made them feel that they could get out there and rule the rest of their lives. And it was that bit. So and the community side of it. So and so it actually was very similar to KK, because it was the community and the confidence and the kind of owning it and backing yourself part that was very, very similar. And so I decided to keep that going, and every year do more challenges. And we rafted down the Amazon and climbed Kilimanjaro and swam across the Bosphorus, and we ran from LA to Vegas last year, relay ran. Oh my God, so these aren't small challenges. Just loads of different, but the thing that gets me, no, we do big challenges and then big kind of charity balls to raise money. And we do different babies and children and women's charities every year. And the thing that drives me is that seeing girls kind of get their confidence by doing these, and they start off really nervous, and then suddenly they find themselves and feel completely empowered and get the confidence and do the challenge. And it then affects them in all other aspects of their lives. So I like the psychology behind it all. And with KK as well, the kind of the different women we have joining, and we have, a total mix. And we get a lot of women coming out of marriages, or, in their late 30s, 40s, who have lost their identity, who are like, we've literally just been a doormat and lost ourselves, which a lot of women do with kids and staying at home. And we've just gone, right, enough, actually we have a need and desires, and then suddenly seeing them find confidence, and the same, we have younger girls that the ones in their 20s who just want to experiment and get out there while they're single, and we have girls coming out of arranged marriages and very religious upbringings, and a lot of women out of abusive relationships who actually are coming back to reclaim their power and control and get their confidence back on their terms. So there's a whole different of reasoning. And then we get the couple where they've been together years and they're exploring their sex lives, but together. So, and that's the thing. They've been together 20 years and they've tried everything and done everything, and they're so in love, and they don't see that it's not cheating. They don't see the kind of emotional part of sex. It's literally, I say, they literally using other people like they would use a dildo, and bring sex toys into their relationship. They're just bringing other people to act like the sex toys that they're just using to explore and experiment, and then going off and carrying on their lives. So it's that part, and a lot of people outsiders look in and go, oh, these are people desperate to mend their relationships, and I'm like, actually, the opposite's true a lot of the time. Some of the most secure with it couples I've ever met in my life are members who've been together years and are so secure.
So I suppose I think the thing is, if you can build confidence in something that is so fundamentally personal and private, then I can see how that then replicates in bed to boardroom. I guess a lot of people listening would think, how would I feel if my partner approached me and said, look, I've heard of Killing Kittens, we've been together a long time, things have maybe got a bit boring, we do love each other, and I don't know how I'd feel about Nick using another woman as a sex toy, say, for example, but knowing that he was enjoying it and vice versa. I guess that's I'd never say never, but I don't know how I feel about that.
I think that's the thing. I think it's not as simple as that. I think you have to, if you have that conversation, one of you said, I think you have to sit down together and really communicate how you're feeling and the reason you want to be doing it, the reason, the actual reasoning for it. In the same way, if someone suddenly goes, no, there's no way, I'm not having anything to do with it, you have to, do they really mean that? Is that their insecurity, defensive mechanism coming just straight out, absolutely no way without? I think it's something that actually you have to go, right, let's have a really open, frank discussion on how we both feel about our relationship and sex lives and actually what we want to explore. And actually, do you know what we found in the last 6 months, because people have been forced to be in lockdown together, going nowhere, I said right at the beginning, this is going to make or break people's relationships. There's no middle ground. It's either going to make them or it's going to break it. And a lot of people have kind of looked at the other person and who they've always been so busy work-wise and in and out and traveling or like ships in the night, that they've never properly sat there and looked at each other and had a proper conversation about what each other likes sexually or fantasies or what they've kind of thought about doing. And we found so many people, and we've been doing these virtual events every week since March, and a lot of people that have been coming, 50% of all the people that come to the workshops, we do about 2 workshop webinars every week, we do a virtual house party every Friday, and about 50% of everyone that comes to any of them are new people, and most of them say they would never have come if COVID hadn't happened, but it's made them sit there and take stock, and the white noise isn't there, and the 1,000 miles per hour isn't there. Actually, neither of them are going anywhere, so they're like, right, let's actually have a conversation. You know what I mean? What can we do?
Go figure.
It's fun. And I've been thinking about this, or I've read about that, and especially virtually, you can sit there on your sofa and go, well, what's the worst that can happen? We're on a sofa, we're kind of seeing a bit of this world, and we can shut down the computer at any point if we feel uncomfortable. So it kind of, and that gets them talking. So a lot of them are like, they've both been thinking very similar things, but there's that, oh, she's going to think I'm a weirdo, or he's going to think I'm a right pervert if I even, say this is what I've thought about. So how many couples out there never really communicated properly what they want or what they'd like to try in the bedroom? There must be, I don't know, like millions of couples. Most couples probably have never really being honest.
Yeah, and it's like imagining yourself. I quite like that idea in a way of you can just shut the screen if you want to, but it's kind of that, imagine standing back to back away from each other and kind of, it's like you're telling your girlfriend, but he can hear you, and vice versa. And because you do get a different response, and you do say different things, and even those levels of what you're willing to admit goes through your mind, because you don't want people to think you're a weirdo or dangerous or, you know, a pervert. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to this, I think, right from, you know, a young age for men and women, for girls and boys, sorry, and understanding around their sexual health and what we educate, what we teach them, how we influence them, right then through to, you know, my age and older. It's such an interesting area. I can see why you're having a huge ton of success in all of this. And you know what, if there's a couple of people listening to this and they think, you know what, I'm going to check out Killing Kittens and see, you know, what if they've got absolutely nothing to lose. So
nothing.
No, and I could talk to you for hours. I've got a million questions, but, you know, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing it to the forefront. Thank you for being bolshy, arrogant, you know, stuck up, loud, you know, non-apologetic, because that's really what is required. So Emma, massive thank you for coming on the podcast, and I'm sure, you know, hopefully in the future we can have you on again.
Thanks for having me on. That was great.
So that's it. You've made it. The show's over. Thank you for being with us. I hope you've been able to take something away, maybe solve a problem, or just know you're not alone. Here's hoping it made you smile with a few laughs along the way. Please feel free to find me on all social media channels, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search the Rona Morale Podcast. Have an awesome day and see you next time.